on. Oh.
I love ending younglings.
Oh boy, boy, boy! It's a game that has all the younglings slaughter I want!
Can I get him? He's got a very punchable face.
Can't wait to play with the Force. What kind of insane magic do you think we can do? Star Wars, the film series where there's plenty of stars, but usually only one war. I like Star Wars a lot. I'm not a die-hard fan or anything, but am I excited for Rise of Skywalker? So I figured, hey, why don't we take a look at that new Star Wars game that nobody's talking about? Jedi Fallen Order.
But before we get into it, we need to pick our difficulty, and I think I'm gonna go with Jedi Master, because have you seen what happens to the Grandmasters? You know something I wasn't expecting to hear in this game? Jedi rock music that the kids listen to on their headphones. Good lord, what do you think that's like? It sounds like someone being sick. My favourite! Okay, running around now. This is a lovely train, isn't it? Hang on a second, I think someone put the wrong game in. This can't be Star Wars. The stormtroopers are hitting me.
Okay, hold your horses. No! Well done. What is going on here? First of all, we're listening to Nicky the Hutt and all of a sudden we're being attacked. Plot, somebody!
So this game takes place in between Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, and Episode 4, A New Hope. The galaxy-wide extinction of the Jedi Order has already happened thanks to Darth Sidious, Vader has already been in command of the stormtroopers for a few years, and you are a Jedi in hiding. Ooh, like Obi-Wan. There he is. Hi. Your name is Cal. And you're a ginge. Disgusting. And while in hiding, you have a best friend at your day job known as which doesn't sound too bad with an American accent, but with a British accent, he's called Prof, and that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. One day, the Empire finds out there's a Jedi hiding in your workplace.
That's you, just in case you couldn't guess.
And after a daring escape, you hook up with a band of raggle-taggle rogues with a lady called Sia and a four-armed nightmare monster called Freezy Breeze made these three trees freeze grease. You find out that the Empire are looking for a special map that has the location of all the remaining Force-sensitive children in the galaxy, which means that if they find it, then the Jedi could face complete annihilation with no hope for a bright future. And so, by working together, you go on the hunt to reach the map before the Empire do by using your own ship to jump all over the galaxy, help Cal rediscover his old Jedi abilities he's lost over the years since the Jedi Masters were initially wiped out, and use Sia's ex-Jedi ability of being able to detect kids.
That makes way more sense in the story, believe me.
To find the next batch of younglings and restore the Jedi Order. Because it fell down.
This story isn't amazing, but it gets the job done nicely. It's not exactly that bad either, it's just nothing groundbreaking.
It feels like a side story because it is a side story. It's nowhere near as integral to the main saga as something like Rogue One is for a side story, but it does feature enough twists, sad moments, and badass moments to hit all the right spots for a simple-to-follow story that's entertaining to go through. The characters are all memorable and likeable, or hateable depending on what they're going for, and there's great flourishes in the story, such as how they paint the Jedi Order as an incredibly flawed system, therefore giving decent motivations to some of the more nasty people in the story. And there's even this great moment during one of Cal's flashbacks where you relive the moments right before Execute Order 66 happens, where all the clone troopers turn on the Jedi Masters, and during this flashback you know it's coming because everyone's talking about it behind your back, and then during some training exercise you get surprised when you see a clone trooper suddenly aiming dead at you, which further throws you off since it just turns out he's testing you for the exercise you're doing. This is a great moment.
And I've got a little bone to pick with our main character. Cal. You know, the guy on the front cover that I said I could deck in the face. Problem is, at the beginning of the game, he has a little bit of a mouth on him. And he doesn't know how to shut it.
How'd you get here?
How'd you get here?
That's a really big bug.
You are not approved trash.
And trash? Just not approved trash.
Yeah, it took me a few hours to warm to him. He's not awful or anything, but to start with, he has something to say about everything, flapping his mouth off like nobody's business, not adding anything to anything, and for a while, his dialogue did feel a little bit forced. Well, I mean, at least he isn't anything like this Johnny in that old Star Wars PS1 game.
The rebel fighters are in range, my lord.
Oh no, Cal! No! What are you doing? Put that guitar down! With that hair, we don't need a Star Wars Ed Sheeran! Although saying that, Ed Sheeran looks like he came from Star Wars anyway.
As we get into the game itself, though, I have to apologise for something very wrong in this upcoming video. Some of the footage you're going to be seeing is around 30 FPS, and the rest of it's going to be 40 to 60. Because for a game about geniuses that can read people's minds and push things by literally pointing a finger at them, It wasn't clever enough to tell me that there's a hidden PS4 Pro Performance Mode in the options menu of the game.
And you know what? Let's start off by talking about that. Fallen Order as a whole looks pretty terrific, except for Cal's face. I mean, what the f. But as a whole, it does make you feel like you are in a part of the Star Wars universe, zipping and zapping around it. And not just because you're able to cut and slice the grass like a Jedi gardener.
Oh, that's why they called it Ground Force!
It just looks so authentically Star Wars, at least the original trilogy Star Wars. You know, that dank and swampy, rusted technology aesthetic. It looks great. And like the rock music you got to hear at the very start, you experience one-to-one more of the culture of the planets of Star Wars and how a lot of the flora and fauna react to intruders. Especially the hostile wildlife and how they behave when they're unaware of your presence. They fight each other and chip their own health bars down, they hunt other humans which can be used to your advantage, and hell, they even eat old bodies that perished only recently. Since the game is set between episode 3 and 4 as well, you get to see remnants of battles from the prequels on certain planets, as well as glimmers of what's to come for the future of the saga chronologically. It's a great mix, and the detail gone into the lightsaber combat animations are to die for gorgeous. I mean, seriously, look how cool this is. And I don't know about you guys, but I was left in awe the first time I used my lightsaber to light up a dark cave. I don't know, it's the little things. It looks great. Leave me alone. But the question I have to pose to all of you today is, well, is this worth the sometimes dreadful frame drops that can often lead you to death totally out of your control?
Yes, I'm playing this game on the PS4. Why not on the PC? Because fuck Origin, that's why. And I did initially buy the game on Steam, but then when I booted it up for the first time and it asked for my Origin account login information, I decided that Steam could go and fuck itself too.
But even with performance mode on and the PS4 Pro, Fallen Order likes to stutter a lot, and texture pop-in is a little too frequent for my liking. Is this enough for me to get angry? No, because I think the game succeeds in too many other places for me to get that furious. And I mean, this game is so vast and huge, it's understandable to a degree. But at the same time, this is such a reaction-heavy game, so a better frame rate would have been very appreciated.
You ever seen a place like this before?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's almost like it isn't even there.
The game itself is an action-adventure, and I haven't enjoyed a Star Wars action-adventure as much as this since Star Wars Bounty Hunter on PS2. If that game was the Star Wars answer to Tomb Raider, then this game is the Star Wars answer to Tomb Raider. Although, I think Lara Croft is much smarter than Cal. I don't know. Isn't it a little dangerous leaving that thing on while it's in your pocket, Cal? Where the game shines, though, is with the combat. It's what you're doing for most of the game, and I really bloody enjoyed it. Dodge rolling, parrying, reflecting bullets, lock on targets you can switch between. It's all very Lords of the Fallen. You even get meditation pads to rest at that restore all of your meters and health packs at the expense of respawning all the enemies in the area, and you can even level up here with skill points you earn from beating enemies. To be fair though, this is more like Sekiro than Dark Souls. You don't collect points to spend on different attributes, you gather XP until you clock over one additional skill point, and if you die, you lose all the XP you gathered up until your last banked skill point. But don't worry, you can always get it back by damaging the culprits, and you reach them by utilizing many shortcuts you unlock to loop back to earlier parts of the level, so when you next need to rest, you don't need to travel as far to reach them. Sound familiar? Yeah, me neither! And by the way, you don't just have a lightsaber, but also force abilities you get throughout the story, meaning slowing enemies down, pushing enemies back, or pulling them towards you during all of your other tactical approaches to battle that I'll get into in a minute. And those skill points, they don't just upgrade base strength or defense, that's dull! You instead get a metric bumload of new moves to play with that can turn the tables in battle very quickly, or are just incredible fun to use. The game isn't easy, it's actually pretty challenging, but it isn't too hard either. It's a decent balance, but does favour more to the hardcore crowd than casual. Like, there's no stamina bar and healing is really quick, but enemies are sometimes faster than you, can stun lock you if you aren't careful, and hit you like a truck most of the time. You will lose in this game. This is basically Star Wars Sekiro, but just a bit easier. I mean, I lost on the tutorial if that gives you any idea. Why did the game do this to me? I was doing my best. You know how I knew that I'd really enjoy this game before I played it? When I looked up the Amazon reviews and everyone was whinging about how hard it was. Also, like in Sekiro, there's minimal iframes with the dodging, meaning that the game is more about positioning your body during the combat and pre-planned rolls, since sidestepping only gets you so far, even when attacks are just about to hit you. You have to allow hits to come to you so you can time a counter guard, which sometimes opens up the enemy to a one-hit takedown, but often it's more like a tennis match of waiting for a string of parries by you needing to guard at the very last moment before being attacked, then attack back, and then parry in response to their counterattack to chip down the enemy's stamina meter so that they can stop guarding you. Sometimes you need to bait their attacks, parry, and then immediately dodge their counter and attack them from behind, since their counter to your parry is too quick to even guard the next one, let alone parry it back. And with certain enemies, they can stun lock you very easily. Every enemy and boss, big or small, provides a totally different approach for lightsabering and best use of your unlocked abilities, along with the Force, which is great for use in crowds, like when force pushing a group of enemies off a ledge, or when you slow down a melee enemy to heal, or take care of other ranged enemies safely while the melee attacker is slowed down. You even get the incredible double lightsaber blades for better crowd coverage at the cost of low attack power, and this gives you extra benefits like infinite blaster rebounding straight back to enemies if you parry the first one correctly and keep holding the guard button down. Even better, if you're brave, this upgrade is in the early game if, after you finish the first proper planet you explore, you go to Dathomir as early as possible, which is very difficult for this early in the game for the lack of health and upgrades you have, but once you reach the end point that you're able to explore to, you unlock the double lightsaber for use in every other point of the game, making the other more bearable planets that you could have picked first even easier, as you can deflect every single shot fired at you from clumps of stormtroopers with the infinite bullet rebound ability I mentioned earlier, when usually you just have to time each individual guard for each individual bullet to rebound them back with the single blade.
Much like what my masseuse said when she took my socks off, there's a lot to work with here.
Even the force meter to do force moves and the special high damage attacks I prefer massively to something like God of War on PS4, since instead of a simple cooldown time to get the force meter back up again so you can exploit the special moves over and over again, you have to land successful hits and get into the combat nitties and gritties in order to refill it, then rewarding you with the chance to use more powerful moves. The strategy is never as simple as spamming attack and rolling over and over again, or guarding and countering over and over again, or chipping down health and running away over and over again. And for most of the game, it's an extremely tricky yet engaging dueling system that tests your reflexes and attention to the max. And because of the sheer speed of everything, even gang encounters feel more doable than in something like Dark Souls 2. Some beasts can even hide in nests and spring out at you, or damage you heavily after you manage to slice them open, so you're constantly on your toes and you never know what's around the next corner, keeping everything fresh and exciting.
But that doesn't stop some of the bosses from being absolute tosspots though!
What I'm about to say does not apply to every single boss, but some of these guys have Dark Souls 2 levels of record player spinning in place as they track you right before they perform any attacks, sometimes even during the attack. And the teleportation in the grabs, my lord, this waste should be illegal, look at this! I'm totally down with more position-based combat instead of exploiting iframes, but when you're given absolutely no chances to avoid or get away from certain attacks, I make noises like a bull. This thing I found in a cave in the first proper level of the game was called Umbongo and was an absolute dangle for no good reason at all, and since he's encountered at the very beginning of the game, I'm sure he's the reason most players quit. He's relentless and every single grab and unblockable attack is potentially fatal with his broken hitboxes and teleporting grabs. I've got no issue at all with him being a high level enemy for the early game. Being two-shotted by him with my tiny health bar is totally fair, but that does not excuse his bugged moveset, and the real funny thing is that no other single boss or enemy from that point onwards is this difficult or broken. Nope, not even the final boss, who's hard, don't get me wrong, but nowhere near as hard as this angry frog slug for this point that you discover it. And why he's at the start of the game makes no sense to me at all. You know what he reminds me of? That troll in Dark Souls 2. Yeah, that troll. The hardest and most glitchy enemy in the entire game that they put at the very beginning of the game because... And because of this, I thought maybe I was supposed to come back to him later. But oh no, I wasn't gonna let him beat me. I'm as stubborn as a mule. Wait, that's not a mule. Yeah, I waited until I got the healing stims so I could heal twice during the battle, but once I got them I went straight back into the lion's den and made some steak! Yeah, I like mine medium rare, pig! If you're stuck at this point of the game, take my advice. Stay as close as you can, only tap dodge to get away from his bites, roll away only at the red attacks, and make sure you roll only at the last possible second, because this twazzock will follow you until the very last second during the charge up. Funnily enough, by the time these things became regular enemies 10 minutes later, I had no trouble with them at all, because I had so much practice with dodging their broken hitboxes from the boss battle. But that learning curve for the very start of the game was unnecessarily brutal. By the way, why does Cal in the pause menu look like he's being told off by his math teacher?
Why haven't you done your homework?
"Oh, miss, I'm really sorry, please don't get the wolves." Oh, by the way, what is going on with some of the enemy behavior? I don't mind them being aggroed when you're at a certain distance from them. It happens in Dark Souls and such, and it helps you manage large groups a fair bit. Well, I mean, minus moments like this is just creepy. I'm talking more about stuff like when they randomly decide to pop out of thin air and gang shave you. I mean, luckily this only seemed to happen to me on Dathomir, but still, what is this all about? How am I supposed to react to this?
I'm so angry right now, nothing is gonna calm me down. Let me at your throat, you miserable sack of spit!
I'm not angry. What are you talking about?
Yeah, you know what? BD1 has calmed me right down, and you want to know why? Because he's got one big dick. This little guy is like Sparks the Dragonfly to Spyro. He's your assistant. You could almost call him a buddy. He scans objects around the levels for heaps of interesting lore information. In case you don't know what a storage crate is, with a tap of a button he gives you a quick health injection that refills every time you rest at a checkpoint or get a game over, and after you knock down any enemy for the first time, he can scan their information, which directly gives you hints and the ideal methods of fighting them in the future if you found the enemy particularly difficult. Oh, and by the way, thanks so much for subtitling every sound effect he makes, Mr. Game. It's not like he's actually saying it. Beep!
The vault. Yeah, that's where I was headed to.
Beep trail! When you first meet this little robot though, you get to customize your lightsaber at the same time, and you bet your crack I went green as soon as possible.
Blue is overrated. Get over it.
And once I was able to pick purple, oh my god, that's even better. Yeah boy, I'm Samuel L. Weasley! You also do a lot of sliding in this game. Like, a lot of sliding. There's so much sliding in this game. Why is there so much sliding? Is this Star Wars or Swanage the video game? Oh yeah, this is a Star Wars game, isn't it? In which case, let's talk about using that force. Now, this is one of the major things that makes this game definitively Star Wars, and once you mix it in with the combat, it makes everything all the more experimental and fun. You start off with the ability to slow down enemies for a second to get an easy hit in, but then force push to, well, take a guess, and then force pull, which can even give you the chance to grab some airborne robots and let BD1 hack them onto your side. Force push is easily my favorite by far though. You can push rockets and grenades back at enemies, and even upgrade it to push entire groups of enemies off the edge of cliffs for an easy win. And you may think that force slow is a little pointless to begin with, since the enemy speeds up again after you touch them, often leading to you getting hit, but I used it more defensively, slowing down enemies so that I could back off and heal, then charge attacking back into the fray while they couldn't guard me. These abilities also extend into non-combat situations though, like with puzzles and hidden rooms where you need to push, pull, and slow down specific objects at certain times to open other doors to other areas and get special loot. These feel extremely Tomb Raider-ish, and when I say that I mean new Tomb Raider-ish. They're a nice change of pace, honestly. Physics puzzles make perfect sense for someone with the Force, and it feels good to solve them since they aren't as blindingly obvious as you'd imagine. Some of these make me think a lot of the shrines in Breath of the Wild, actually. And hey, if you finish a puzzle and end up with nothing more than additional costumes or cosmetics for your lightsaber, BD1, or your ship, or even more lore information to scan, even though I loved reading all of that stuff and seeing all the costumes I could get, it doesn't matter if you don't enjoy any of that because you still get a dump load of XP to build up to another skill point anyway, so you get gameplay benefits for solving puzzles too, which feels even more like Lara Croft. And I really like how you're using the Force to listen to the echoes of the past. It's a really cool idea. Wait, hang on a bleeding hole. Who's this? Uba Neba Noki? Is that Ed Sheeran's Jedi name? In fact, to further utilize the Force into the gameplay, they make the skill tree menu contextual by making you have to meditate at a checkpoint to access it, and the reason you've forgotten all of these moves that you need to unlock again is because after Order 66 happened, you have got more and more disconnected from the Force as the years have gone on. So the more you do in the game, the more experience you literally and metaphorically save up, and the more you're able to remember from your older Jedi days by meditating and concentrating to funnel that stored experience into a new memory, which also explains why older Jedi are so much more powerful. It's all about the experience and channeling that experience. Now it's just more literal with it being in a game. It keeps the Force as this mysterious presence too, instead of just this thing that you have, made even more mystical by the correct decision to make Cal already a Jedi when the game begins, so you never see him randomly get the Force, and don't see this random transition of, oh, this kid has midichlorians, so many midichlorians, that must mean he can do the Force real good. Oh no, Anakin, stop it! While exploring, on the extremely odd occasion, you can even get yourself permanent extensions to your Force meter, health bar, and an additional healing injection, so it's always worth searching the levels from top to bottom and solving tiny puzzles every so often to see what you can find.
Yeah. As it turns out, the loading times on PS4 can be pretty abysmal, to be honest. It doesn't happen everywhere, but specifically it happened a lot here. On the planet Kashyyyk, whenever you're loading from a foresty area to a more industrial area, and it looks so goofy because Cal just kind of vibrates in place while the world craps its pants around him.
Fallen Order does end up having a bit of everything in it though, despite the more obvious comparisons. It's got a bit of Uncharted with platforming and climbing around the world. There's some new Tomb Raider games in here with the exploring for hidden items and puzzles. There's Mirror's Edge with this insanely fun wall jump parkour system that very dastardly hides some secrets away from you brilliantly. There's some dark Neo with its combat and approach to difficulty, and most notably to me, 3D Metroidvania. This I wasn't expecting to see, and to be fair, it's not the biggest aspect of the game, but as you grab new force abilities and BD1 circuit upgrades, the game then allows you to go back to previous planets and explore far more than you could have expected with areas you couldn't access before. Sometimes it's for story reasons, sometimes it's optional, but it's always a good feeling to come back to an early area after being overpowered and slice enemies in half that gave you such a hard time at the start. Or you could try solving the puzzle without the correct ability yet, which means you just end up aggressively touching every single door. Yeah, Cal, give that rock a good hard pat. I think it likes a good old pat. Much like other Metroidvanias, the levels themselves are gargantuan, and you'll be getting familiar with the ins and outs of the dozens of layers each of them have the more you fly back and forth. And since there's no teleportation function, you instead get this incredible map feature to help you link together all the different areas and shortcuts in the planet that you're on. Unexplored paths, locked doors, easily distinguishable floors, it's all here, and it's all pretty comprehensive and easy to read, reminding me a lot of Dead Space actually. Jedi Fallen Order was way more explorative than I ever could have expected. It really is massive, yet impressively, it's not too bloated or repetitive since each planet has a huge variety of different visually and geographically designed sublocations that all link together, making the interconnected areas feel like you're traveling through many of the different open stages within a singular giant stage. In fact, I even got a lot of Ratchet & Clank vibes from all the individual island venturing and ziplining over bottomless pits, and the idea of leaping from planet to planet at your own accord. It's got such an adventurous feel to it, which keeps the pace nice and smooth. The environment in each planet even has their own unique ways of telling you what you can jump on, grab, climb up or wall run across without being too in your face and obvious, keeping the immersion up. For those really struggling with the game too,
You can either pick easy mode like a big runny baby,
or you can always forego the experience points and scanning bonuses you'll get from fighting a difficult enemy and find one of the many alternate routes to loop yourself back around. Above, below, to the side, there's so many pockets and little caverns to discover. Mix this in with the lightsaber parrying combat with unlockable force moves and force powers for combat and exploring, and you have a pretty fantastic time, despite some of the issues that I've brought up.
And don't worry, your mum didn't lose that rug in the living room last week. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order has it.
What is going on with these Wookiees, man? They look horrific. Well, whatever. The Wookiees may look wacky, but as far as the sounds are concerned, it feels like a John Williams Star Wars movie soundtrack. In fact, it's so convincing, I was surprised he didn't write the score. It can be emotional, sweeping, marching, foreboding, chaotic, cathartic, and uses plenty of the classic instruments you come to expect from a Williams score when certain scenes need to play themselves out. You know, there's the bongos and light percussion to drum up the mystery or suspense, there's the woodwind and brass bouncing back and forth for more cheeky and laid-back moments, and eerie ringing strings whenever you're hiding from something. There's always something new to hear, and it even dynamically reacts with what you're doing in the game, whether you're searching a new location for the first time or battling it out against a million enemies all at once. I was more caught off guard, honestly, by the high amount of moments the game decided it should let the visuals and atmosphere speak for itself. There's a lot of quiet downtime for a lot of the planets where you just hear the sounds of nature and distant growls of monsters screaming at blaster shots from stormtroopers, and it all feels so alive when it does that. It knows not to overwhelm you, and for a huge game like this, I appreciate that. It's also great to hear how casual all of the stormtroopers are despite the threatening murderous dictatorship they're working for, and how they talk back and forth with water cooler chat while they think no one's looking.
I'm hungry. It's reducing the quality of my posture and aim. Doesn't surprise me. An intruder? We killed a Jedi.
Even going as far as to act all confident and bullying when you start fighting them, only to get scared and nervous the more of the group you start to cut down.
Let's take him out. Can't top my skill. He's running scared. I think he's trying to run. Someone else attack him. We're out of range support. Stay back. Just stay back. Please don't hurt me. Is it just me?
I also really liked how whenever you move with the lightsaber equipped, it audibly reacts to how you move.
And much like how I feel about this hammer, this is really good. Jedi Fallen Order, on PS4 at least, does have a few technical problems, and as far as the whole game itself is concerned, without the errors, it's not the best thing I've ever played in my life, but I was not disappointed at all. I loved my time playing this. And I think it's about time that companies started taking more risks with kid-friendly material like Star Wars, and then making products and games with them that don't necessarily have to appeal to a more wider casual crowd, because this is more niche due to its difficulty. I can really appreciate that.
I mean, how could I be disappointed with set pieces like this? Or this? Or even this? And then you hijack it and blow up everything in your...
This really does feel like the blockbuster game of the holidays, just in time for when the new movie launches, provided that you go for a difficulty that isn't the easiest one. The exploration and stuff is totally fine, and the map feature will delight any completionist, but in my opinion, it's the combat that will give you the most enjoyment and mileage out of your time with the game. Sure, it'll be a little bit tough, but push yourself, and you may find that this is one of your favourite games of the year. And this is a Star Wars game by EA, can I just remind you?
You did done good, kid. You did done good.
You, know any jokes, BD?
Ba-beep! Boo-beep! Trill beep boo!
I don't know. Why?
Boo trill beep boo!
Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching this video. The outtakes will be on in just a second, so please stay tuned. But first, I just need to direct you to the description below, to my Twitter and Instagram, which is where I'm most active on social medias. All my updates, other random jokes, all that kind of nonsense, that's all down there below. And special thank you to every single person on the screen right now that has supported this channel via Patreon. YouTube has been very difficult recently, so every single look at the page is massively appreciated. If you choose to support it, then oh my god, I don't even know what to say, so thank you so much. And just before the outtakes come on, special thank you to the top tier supporters for this month. Basil, Brandon, Mitchell Reed, AD Thornton Smith, Nightshade 96, Exopaz, Matthew Hubble, Daniel LaRosa, GTFO Brikachu, Matthew O'Donnell, TARDIS Type 40, Ramen Wolf 1485, Red-Eyed Critic, Fart Rules, Ray Slocum, Doom Guy, Brandon Butler Williams, J-Man Crew, The Game Shed, and Dazam Dal, and X-Shadow-Hunter ZX. Thank you so much, every single one of you amazing people.
Oh boy! No. I like Star Wars a lot. I'm not a die-hard fan or anything, but am I excited for Rise of Skywalker? Help if I press the button? I don't know how to do this. I'm so angry right now! I don't know how to do this. I'm so angry! Oh god! I'm still a growing boy,
Oh, don't
everybody.
say that.
But I am.
Don't say that.
We all go through it.
No, I didn't.